Hi, this is Crystal Trudeau from Listen to Your Art. Welcome to Wicked Tulip here in Exeter, Rhode Island. I'm really excited to have you here. Today we're going to be painting a double canvas, tulips inside a little watering can. And this is something that you can do with your significant other, with your children, with your parents, or even a friend, as long as they're in your group of 5. And it's a really fun canvas activity. It's very simple. Everyone can do it. And of course our subject is tulips, which is perfect. If you look around here, Wicked Tulips, amazing space here. So make sure you come down and get your tulips. They have done an amazing job here, making sure it's safe for you to come down. All right, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the materials that you'll need. You'll need some water, some brushes, and an assortment of paint. The paint that I have here today is white, green, yellow, orange, coral, black, and 2 shades of gray for our table and the watering can over here. So make sure you have, I always put down a tablecloth to protect my table. Make sure I have a paper towel to wash off my brushes and a paper plate for my paint. All right, so we're gonna get started here. I'm gonna move my paint over here and we're gonna switch views for you. So, all right, to start our painting here, I am gonna use a ruler. You can actually see the line I already put in here. About 3.5 inches or so. You're gonna come up from the bottom, and you can just use a ruler at your house or something that's straight, and you're gonna go across both canvases. So however is working with you, I'm gonna pretend I'm working with Uncle Bob today. So Uncle Bob here, whoop, and I will make sure we go straight across together. And then later on we'll be able to separate. Uncle Bob can do his next to me, and I'll do mine over here. All right, just gonna shimmy over a little bit. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna flip my other canvas around here, is we need to add the watering can. This is probably the trickiest part, so just take your time. You're gonna do it with pencil first, and I'm gonna place those canvases together. You're going to not come up too high because we want to leave room for our tulips. And you're going to do an angle down here and an angle down over here. And making sure there's a nice curve for the bottom of your watering can. There we go. And a curve on the top. When I did this at home, it kind of reminded me of a lampshade. So you have a lampshade shape to start. And then you're going to add a backward C for our handle. So you're going to want a big backward C for the outside edge of your handle. And then a little backward C for the inside. And don't worry about the pencil marks or anything like that. You're going to be painting over all this, so if you make a mistake and you need to fix it, go over it, don't worry about it. This is supposed to be fun and relaxing, something that you'll enjoy with your family. We don't have to be perfect. All right, then for the spout here, you're gonna come down on an angle on both sides. This is probably the hardest part to draw here. And then you wanna give it a little curve so that people can tell that's where the spout is, where it meets the metal. And then at the tip, there's also another little curve. And over here, I have a small watering hole. I think on this one, I'm actually gonna do a little bit bigger. So I want my watering can to have a nice big spout over here. So there you have it. So we have our sketched out watering can, and that's all you need to do in terms of working with the pencil. And that was the hardest part. So if you made it with me so far, you're in good shape. All right, so next up, I have 3 brushes. I always have 3 brushes on hand, a small, a medium, and a large. We're gonna start with the small. And I'm gonna paint the base down here. I chose gray and yellow because I thought they were a nice complement to these orange and coral colored tulips. So I'm gonna start with the light gray down here. Now what I recommend is that you use the tiny brush and go along the edges. Using the tinier brush first gives you more control. And when you're working with acrylic paint, you want to make sure that you're spreading that paint out. You do not want thick layers with acrylic craft paint. The paint that I'm using is just apple barrel paint, which you get at Walmart. I really love this paint. It's a great craft paint. It's about $1 per color, so very inexpensive. This is an important part. I want to peel this off. I'm using tape because it's a bit windy out here on the farm. All right, I want to show you the canvas here. You want to go over the edge. The reason you want to make sure you get the edges when you hang it on your wall, depending where people are walking in your home or wherever you display it, you will see the edges there. So you want to make sure that you're coating them. So I'm going to do that over here as well. Now that I've done the outline, I'm going to switch to a bigger brush. So my big guy over here. And this is going to make my life much easier. So now that I've spent all that time being careful, I can be a little more wild down at the bottom. And fill in the rest of my table. Oh, my paint is drying fast out here in the sun. I would recommend doing this in a shady spot or inside your house so that you don't have that same problem. All right. With acrylic paint, I recommend that you do 2 to 3 coats. I'm not going to torture you, make you watch me do 2 to 3 coats. We're going to switch out in a few minutes, but I want to recommend that to everyone. Acrylic craft paint isn't as opaque as you would like it to be. It's not 1 coat and you're done, so I would recommend about 3 coats. All right, so I'm going to switch colors here. Back to my little baby brush. Oh, you don't want to stay up here, do you? There we go. And I'm going to use the yellow. And the yellow, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Be very careful around the edge so that I can be wild with that big brush in just a minute. I like this nice bright sunny color. I thought it would be perfect with that coral colored tulips. Down here at Wicked Tulips, they have every color you could possibly imagine. Unbelievable. Okay. I'm actually going to go over, you might be wondering, why is she going over the top of the watering can where the tulips are going to be? I want to have it solid, so I'm going to take the time to do the whole entire thing. Switching to my big brush. And here I can be a little bit more wild, like I said. And you're going to make sure again that you're going to the edge. We don't want that to be naked. We want the whole canvas to have paint on it when we're done. All right, looking good. All right, now yellow and purple for some reason, those 2 colors always need a little extra coat. The pigment in those 2 colors isn't as strong. So I'm going to make sure when I do my yellow that I do probably 4 coats to make sure it's nice and vibrant. Now, when your paint is drying in between coats, if you're working outside in the sun like this, it's going to dry really fast. But if you're inside your home, you can use a hair dryer. The only thing when you're using a hair dryer to dry your coats is you need to make sure you're on cool dry or low, because paint and heat aren't friends. So we want to make sure that we're taking good care of our paint. Okay, so you get the idea here, folks. We're going to be doing the table in the background, about 3 coats each. And Uncle Bob over here is slacking. I don't know what his problem is, but he's got to catch up to me over here. Right. I think you get the idea there. We're going to switch to my next canvas. So I'm going to put these aside. Oop. Uncle Bob caught up to me here. He did a nice job. So you see the difference between doing one coat, and this, I believe I did 3 coats of both the gray and the yellow. Now the fun part, we're gonna start with the watering can, and then we'll do the tulips and the tulip leaves and stems. So I'm gonna grab an extra plate over here, and hopefully the wind will be kind to me and not blow away my paint. You'll use dark gray for your watering can. I like this color. This is one of my favorites by Apple Barrel, Palm Leaf. It's a gorgeous green. And then I'm using pumpkin orange. And this is a great color, flamingo coral. Perfect for these tulips. All right, again, I'm gonna start, with my little brush to do the outline of the pot here, my watering can. And I wanna do nice, thin coats. Spread out that paint. No puddles is what I tell my students at Listen to Your Art. No puddles. Making sure I take my time around those edges. And you guessed it, you can be a little more wild on the inside. Go. Nice curve at the bottom. Uncle Bob over here slacking again. This is such a fun activity to do with someone in your family. You could do it with your mother for Mother's Day. Great activity. Remember to get the edge over here. This guy, easy to forget. Make sure you get that little guy. My favorite part is going to be our next stage where we get to do the highlights and the shadows. That's parts when it like really comes to life for you. Right now it's kind of laying the groundwork. You're putting your foundation. Okay, I'm gonna grab my big brush. Get to be a little bit more wild. But making sure I spread out my paint. No puddles, no lumps and bumps. Spread that out. If you're working with a little one, they love to put a lot of paint on a paintbrush. So I always spend the time in the beginning to teach the little ones how to put paint on a paintbrush and how to put just a little. And a lot of times I'll mess up. I'll take a big scoop and be like, oh, is that good? And oh, no, you can't do that. So that's a good thing before you start. If you've got a little one beside you, make sure that they know just put a little bit of paint on. You can always go back for more. You don't want it dripping all over the place and puddles on your painting. Okay. Oh, caught it. There we go. All right. Ooh, you little stinker. I think I got it. I'm going to do... Whoa. Put you over here for right now. I'm going to do Uncle Bob's side over here, since he's asleep at the wheel. Whoop, I went down a little bit too far over here. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll go back with light gray later when it dries. I always make sure if I make a mistake, I go back when it's dry. If you try to go over it while it's wet, they tend to mix together and you'll get a different color. So just leave it and go back to it later. All right. I love little watering cans. I have these all over my yard, the tin watering cans. This one's kind of a short, stubby one, but he's still cute. All right, so we have our watering can. You're gonna wanna do this, like I said, 3 times to get a nice, solid watering can before we do the highlights and the shadows. Now we get to do the fun part, the tulips. So we're gonna switch colors. The tulips, you're going to use the coral and the orange. I'm going to move this over here because it's kind of being pain in the booty. Okay. All right, so we're going to begin with the coral and the orange, and we're going to kind of go back and forth and mix, and I'm not going to clean my brush. I'm going to be a little lazy, but that's going to give us a really nice look for the blossoms. So the best way, I was trying to think about this last night, what's the best way to explain the shape of the center of the tulip? Well, to me it kind of has a diamond shape, but if you rounded off all of the edges. So that's what we're going to be striving for. Oh, I wanted to share with you that we're going to do about 3 blossoms on one side and 3 on the other. And we're going to try and space them out from one another. So this one you need to pay attention to your partner. Where are they putting their flowers? And some of them will be all the way open, some will be partial, and some will just be little buds. So here we go with our first shape. So there you see, kind of has that diamond shape but rounded off. And I'm going to grab a little bit of orange and just kind of mix that in a little bit. And then once you have your centerpiece, you're going to do a little curve over here and a little curve over here. It's like 2 little moons giving it a little hug there. All right, down here I want to, windy spot, put a little bud here. And the same shape, but he's tiny and he's getting a much tighter hug here. We're not going to go out with our tulip too much. Bob is doing a nice job over here. He's redeeming himself. Here's our centerpiece. And then again, the little moon shapes that are going to support it. Over here, I think I'm going to do a big one here. Give it its little hug. Notice I'm switching between orange and the coral. I am not cleaning my brush. I'm trying to get that blended effect, that there's a little bit of highlight of orange and coral together like a real tulip would have. And let's see, maybe a bud over here. Not quite opened. And another guy. I think I'm going to squeeze one in right here. He's a little down low. All right, so you want 6, 3 on one side and 3 on the other. And again, try to pay attention to where your partner is putting theirs if you want to have a balanced look to your bouquet. And now I'm going to switch to my medium brush for the, actually, nope, I'm a liar. We're going to switch to my baby brush, the small one, for adding in the stems. So at the bottom of the tulip, I'm going to add a little bit of greenery, kind of where the tulip, it's beginning at the stem, and then I'm going to draw a line back to the planter here, the watering can planter. I'm going to have to sometimes go behind tulips and sometimes in front of tulips. It's totally up to you. This one down here is kind of low, so you won't even see his stem. This little fella over here, I'm going to have him go behind that little blossom that's starting to open. Kind of gauge where that might be. Don't worry about this being perfect because you're going to go back and add highlights and shadows later on. A little stem there, and one more for this guy way over here. It's kind of flopping out of the watering can. Now that we have all our stems, here's the fun part. You want to add a lot of lush leaves in here to fill out your watering can. If you see my sample here, I really tried to fill it in as much as I possibly could. Put that bad boy back over there. It's going to be thin at the top and get much fatter towards the bottom. So you're going to start anywhere you like. And you're going to go right back to that watering can, but make sure it gets wider as you go. You could show, if you have a little one with you, you could show them what a tulip leaf looks like so they can see that shape before they begin. Or maybe you haven't seen a tulip leaf in a while. You could take a peek. Or come on down here to Wicked Tulips and get some tulips for some inspiration. You could also do these in different colors, whatever makes you happy. If you like purple tulips better, go for it. I'm going to make sure I have some leaves hanging out over the side here. And then if you look at my sample, I also have some drooping over the edge. Because of course they would do that in real life, so we want to make sure that some of them are coming down. And you're just going to continue to fill this in until you're happy. You know what? I think I'm going to go right over that tulip. Look at that. Bam. Don't worry, you can go in front, you can go behind, you can squeeze it in the middle. Just want to make sure it's nice and lush. Nice, big, healthy bouquet. Okay. We're gonna switch canvases now. So when you do this with your family, you're gonna want to make sure you do 3 coats of both the watering can, the leaves, and the tulips. Make sure it's nice and solid. Let's switch this out. This is the final stage where we get to do all the fun final details. My favorite part, because I feel like this really makes it pop and come to life. And if you notice my sample over here, we're going to be including some polka dots on the background, some shadowing down below. We're going to actually add a little heart on the watering can and give some life to those flowers and the greenery. So we're going to have to do a little color mixing, and that is one of my favorite things to do. Let me get a fresh plate over here. My paint is drying fast here out on the farm. We need some white here to add to those, the pink and the orange. Ooh, doesn't want to come out. It's a little crusty. You know what I call those? Paint boogies. My students know that name. Down at Listen to Your Art, I do classes for adults and children. Lots of paint parties, wooden sign designs, and canvas painting, and lots of cool other projects. So make sure you check me out on Facebook or listentoyourart.net. All right, we're gonna add, I'm gonna stick with my little brush. I like him today. So I'm gonna add a little white to the side, and I wanna make sure the camera can see this. I'm gonna take a little bit of coral and a little bit of white and mix that together. It's gonna make a light kind of coral color. And I'm gonna add some highlights. And I'm gonna be adding on the left side today. That's where I'm gonna imagine my light is coming from, the left side. So each of my little flowers, I'm gonna add, notice I'm kind of like sloppily putting this on. I'm not putting a lot of effort in it, just little curves to give it a little pop. And just those little curves make a big difference, that light hitting the tulips there. So we've got that light coral color, and I'm going to sneak in some super white pops too. You don't want to go too crazy with the white, the stock white. You want to just a little bit to give it a little extra something. I think I might add some orange and white too. Just a little bit. Ooh, I like that color. Kind of reminds me of a creamsicle, which would be perfect out here on the farm right now. It's nice and toasty. You can see there are lots of people coming by getting their tulips today, so make sure you come and get yours. All right, now we're gonna take our green that we had. So you don't need a bunch of different green paints. Just take the green that you have, and you're gonna add a little white to make your highlight, and you're gonna add a little black to make your shadow. And when I say little, I mean little. Black goes a long way. You want a teeny bit. So here's my green. I'm gonna add some white to it. Ooh, lights up perfect. So again, on the left side, I'm gonna add my highlights. Oh, that really makes a difference. It goes from being a very flat painting to a nice 3D, 2D painting here. We're not quite 3D, we're getting there. All right. Keep putting your highlights on the left-hand side. That's where the sun is hitting them. Those little leaves. What a difference that makes. This part is one of my favorites. It really makes your painting come to life. All right, now here's the tricky part. I need to add some shadows. So when I say little, I mean the tiniest, tiniest speck of black you're going to add to your green. I want to make a nice deep green to go on the right side as a little shadow to my leaves. Ooh, that looks so nice. Uncle Bob has really stepped up his game today. I'm very impressed. Okay, oh, perfect. Next, we can move on to our planter. Actually, do I want to do our planter? I think I'm going to save the planter. No, we'll go for the planter. All right. But we need dark gray for our planter and a light gray for our planter. So we're doing the same thing. We're doing some shadows and we're doing some highlights. All right, Mr. Green, you're all set. Okay. I'm just going to pour some fresh gray. A little dry out here. All right. So my highlights are going to be on my left side, keeping with the same theme that the light's coming from over here. So I'll put a little on the tip of my watering can. Some coming down the spout, and I'm going to give it a little curve, those highlights, because I want people to see the shape. It's a little lighter than I was hoping for. I'm going to mix some light and dark together. Tone that down a little bit. There we go. Blend that in. Okay, where else do we need some highlights? Down here. Showing where that base is. Right at the tippity top here. Remember, your light's coming from this side. And then I'm going to draw in that heart. Now your heart doesn't need to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Love's not perfect. Just do your best heart. You want a little on one side and a little on the other. Now the left-hand side is going to get a little more highlight, a little more love on this side of the heart. And we'll put a little more shadow on the other side of our heart. Right here inside the handle, I'm going to put a little highlight there and blend a little bit further down. Okay. I am going to add a little bit of the dark gray on top. Make these a little more subtle. There we go. Now for some dark gray. So again, I'm going to be grabbing that black. So the teeniest, especially if you're working with a little one, or maybe one of the old ones who doesn't like to listen, a teeny bit of black paint. I know my mom, she wouldn't listen. She'd go crazy with the black and I'd have her start again. Oh, Mom, what'd you do? All right. So the shadow is going to go, ooh, that's not dark enough. Now my mom's laughing at me because I was teasing her. Now it's not dark enough. Oh, still a little more. Now I like it. All right, there we go. You want to be able to see that contrast. So the dark shadow there. A little on the top. Don't want to go too crazy, just a little. Underneath here, you're going to see a little shadow. On the right side of your heart. We'll go a little on the left, but not too crazy. And over on the right side here, I'll blend that in. You can add a little bit gray back in if you think it was a little too dark. Don't forget your handle. This baby over here needs a nice dark shadow, especially on this line right here. so that people can see that the handle is a little bit behind. Okay. Pretty happy with that. It's looking pretty good. Okay. Oh, I don't want to forget, with the dark gray, I want to put in the little holes in my watering can. You can have a lot of holes, you can have a few holes, whatever you like, whatever makes you happy. I'm going to switch to my big paintbrush for the bottom here. If you notice in my sample, there's a shadow down here. Now I'm going to be using the gray, but I'm going to wipe a little bit off on my paper towel. This is called dry brush technique, and you wipe it off so there's just a little bit of paint. It's not overly saturated, and that way I can create a shadow nice and lightly. You can always add more. When I do my adult paint parties, I always say, painting is like salting your food. You can always add more, but you don't want to put too much on at once. It's harder to take it away. There's my little shadow. And don't worry if it's supposed to be a little messy. It's a blur, it's a shadow. I'm adding a little bit of light gray over it to blend it together. Right. Best part. Absolute best part. Where are you, my little guy? Okay. I know you all have these at home. Corks. If you get a wine cork, you can make the perfect little polka dots. I threw out all my wine corks, so I actually had a little branch from one of my craft kits, and it's just cut off. So if you don't drink wine, don't have a cork around, you could just take a stick, cut it straight, and then you have yourself a little dabber, and this will give you perfect circles. I tried to spread my circles out, and I didn't want my circles to be perfect, or my polka dots to be perfect. It's kind of a wild polka dot pattern. Need a little more. I am a big fan of polka dots. I use them for everything. Right, so you're gonna dip that into your paint and then dab it off so you don't have too much on there. And then you're gonna press on your canvas and you're gonna get these cute little polka dots. You can go back with a brush and fill them in if you want them to be absolutely perfect. Or if you like the look of them looking a little more rustic, here you go. Okay, now, important part of being an artist is to sign your work. When I was little, I always thought I was going to be a famous artist. Not a famous artist yet. But my name is Crystal Lee, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to have like a cool signature. And my cool signature was C. Lee. I know, really original, but I'm going to go with C. Lee for today. So make sure you be proud of that work. C. Lee, oh, I should actually sign this Uncle Bob over here. C. Lee and Uncle Bob are beautiful work that we've created together. Now, one thing you can do with your canvas to embellish it is to add a little rag bow. Rag bows are super easy to create. If you go to my Listen to Your Art Facebook page, I have a cute short video tutorial on how to make a rag bow. But when you hang this, you can hang it together or separate, and you can add a little bow to give it that 3D effect if you like it. And of course it has polka dots in it, my favorite. All right. I'm gonna flip this around, and I would like to thank you for watching our painting tutorial that you can do with a loved one. If you're interested in purchasing the materials, I am selling a kit on my website, listentoyourart.net. It's $35 for everything you need to paint, but don't feel obligated. You can go to Walmart, Michael's, or even Hobby Lobby. The idea is to have fun with your family member. So I don't know what you're waiting for. Get out there and paint something.